Welcome back to Tracy Take Tuesday, where we release a mock draft every Tuesday between now and the Tuesday right before the 2025 NFL Draft. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing my eighth rendition of the 2025 mock drafts. So before we get into that, hit that subscribe button, tackle that bell to get notified when new videos come out, and leave a like and a comment. Let us know what you think of this mock draft and who you want to see your team select. And Ryan, that being said, let's get into it here. So
Let's do it.
combine is officially done. So this is the first combine, first mock draft post combine. And I think to me, this absolutely could change as well for the number one overall pick. But it is leaning to me that the Titans are going to go Cam Ward here. Um, I could maybe they go Abdul Carter, maybe they trade back. That's a possibility if somebody gives them an offer they can't refuse. But they don't like Will Levis. And they maybe could go the free agency route as well. And I still maybe think this doesn't stop them from doing that and still just developing Cam Ward, make sure that they get it right. But I still think he's going to be the option that they end up going. More need, I think, than overall best player available. But we'll kind of have to wait and see as more information comes out post combine. Coming up here to Cleveland Browns. Once again, I they could go quarterback, but I think this is where they actually veer away from that option. They have a lot of other needs, and potentially Myles Garrett is on the move. And even if Myles Garrett is not on the move, I know they do have Isaiah McGuire, who rated well according to PFF, which is the site that we're using here today. I still would really love an Abdul Carter edge rush complement to a Myles Garrett edge rush. And then even if Myles Garrett's is not there, then you're going to need a new edge rusher. So I like Abdul Carter in that position. I think it's a win-win either way. So New York Giants here. A lot of talk about potentially who their quarterback's going to be. Been floating those Aaron Rodgers rumors. He's already in New York, so like, why not just keep him there? He's used to the stadium. I'm just joking, but it's the Giants are also a QB needy team in a win now situation for the front office's jobs. So I say all that potentially they could go a different route, but I also think too they're still going to go with a quarterback here, Shador Sanders, and also maybe try to start build for the future, have him develop, learn from Aaron Rodgers before maybe taking the reins over in year 2 or year 3. Now that being said, though, I say all that before. If they're in a win now mode, I could maybe see them going with Ted McMillan, maybe see them going with a Will Campbell, or maybe even Mason Graham or Travis Hunter. I think they really wanted to boost up that secondary still, which is still very young. So here now with your New England Patriots, Travis Hunter is still on the board, and I'm going to mix this up a little bit here. Instead of your Patriots taking Travis Hunter, I actually have the Jags going up one spot, just ensuring that they're able to get Travis Hunter as well, making a trade back for New England. New England does have Christian Gonzalez. Not saying that they wouldn't want to have Travis Hunter on that team as well, but I think the Jags might need him a little bit more. So I have them trading up one spot. I have them trading the 5, the 88th, and then the 143 pick. So a little bit more kind of in favor, I think, for the Patriots here, as the Patriots traded the 4 and the 105 as well. I think the points a little bit favored to New England, but I also think, too, if the Jags really want Travis Hunter in this scenario, this is going to be the route that they'll end up going here. So Jags need some secondary help. They just need defensive help as a whole. And so maybe they stay put and take Mason Graham, but here trying to mix it up, have them go and get Travis Hunter, put him across from Tyson Campbell. Here with your New England Patriots now picking at number 5, I could see them going in multiple different directions now. They have the extra draft capital as well. This is a very deep defensive line class, so I think that they can wait there on the defensive line. Offensive line, I think where they're picking the second round, I think gives them a lot of options to pick there or potentially even to actually trade up into the first. So here I'm actually going to have them go with Ted McMillan and have them select him. I know that you're a huge fan of Ted McMillan, just one of your favorite prospects. No, I'm just joking. It's not that you dislike Ted McMillan, but
I
I
just
think
don't think
here,
he's an elite wide receiver prospect like some people hype him up to be. But to be fair, there's not a lot of elite prospects in this draft anyways.
yeah.
So
So maybe they wait. They have the extra couple of picks now for them to be kind of aggressive. So I think it's worth the 5th overall pick here. So here now with Las Vegas. Shador Sanders didn't make it. Travis Hunter didn't make it, nor did Tet McMillan. Maybe they go Ashton Genty. That could potentially be a possibility, but there's such a deep running back class. If this running back class was super weak, I could legitimately see them going Ashton Genty without thinking about it. But they can go get a Travion Henderson in the beginning of the third round, late second round, or something like that, and be absolutely fine at that position. So I actually have them going here. Mason Graham. Christian Wilkins ended up getting hurt, but I am just envisioning what that defensive line will look like with Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson / Malcolm Kuntz if they end up re-signing him, and then Christian Wilkins and Mason Graham as well. I think another aspect to that point as well too is if you go look at just their free agents as of right now, their depth chart, I think there's only a couple of defensive linemen that are currently signed on contracts when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders just current depth chart. And so as of right now, they have a couple of fourth string guys like Andre Carter, for example, but Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Jonah Lealu, and then Tyree Wilson are the only guys signed as of right now on the defensive line. So I think going Mason Graham, getting some more depth, and also in really solidifying that defensive interior, I think would be great. So here for the Jets, unfortunately, Tet McMillan and also Mason Graham didn't make it. They could potentially go secondary, but I also think too where their second pick is also a good secondary spot as well. They have a lot of free agents in that area, so very similar to the Las Vegas Raiders. That logic could be used there for maybe going with a Jade Barron or Will Johnson or Benjamin Morrison or some of these other guys. But I do have them going with Tyler Warren here, just kind of sitting at this spot. I felt like he's just the best bang for your buck, I think, at that position here. And so maybe they go Will Campbell. I think that could be interesting, but I have to wait and see. Speaking of Will Campbell, there are teams that need a lot of offensive line help, and the Panthers here, I think, can trade back and then still get some of the top edge rushers or defensive linemen as they like. And so I look at a team like Miami, who is in a very interesting spot, but no matter what spot you're in, you need to keep building up your offensive line. So I have Miami trading up the 13th, the 48th, and the 115 for the 8th and the 74th pick overall. So the Panthers move back a little bit, but then they actually get another second round pick and move up and even get a little more draft capital as well. And so Miami's going to be taking Will Campbell here. They have both of their starting guards as of right now are free agents. And that being said, too, I think Will Campbell is better than both of them. And so
Yeah.
I think he maybe could play tackle. He's probably going to be best kicking into guard. And if you're Miami, you just want better offensive linemen. So I don't see why Will Campbell would not drastically improve that offensive line room. So let me get a quick drink of water. Ryan, what do you think so far?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a lot of the same names, just in a different order that we've started to see kind of at the top of these drafts. I think we really have seen like the top 12 prospects kind of differentiate themselves from everybody else. And so as you kind of get going down this list, like you're running out of these guys. And so I think for the Panthers to move back, that makes a lot of sense to get that extra draft capital. They are going to get a lower caliber player, but I think they get an extra dip in that like 12 through 50 range that aren't that are all the same. And so I feel like that makes a lot of sense there. Same thing for the Patriots, kind of moving back a couple spots there, acquiring that extra third round pick in that trade. And so no, I like it. I think all the picks makes a lot of sense so far.
Thanks. I do as well. That's why I did them. So moving on now to number 9 here. New Orleans Saints is like they need just defensive line help. Who knows what's going to be happening with their quarterback situation? And so there's a lot of options that I really don't think there's a wrong pick for them. I would get Luther Bird and Malachi Starks. I would understand any of the defensive line players. If they would want to go secondary, I'd get that. Especially too, like Paulson Adebo is a free agent, but he also fractured his leg, his femur actually as well too. So like, what's that injury going to look like just when it comes to overall return? But I ended up going. Actually, I think Kellen Moore is going to want a gadget guy that they could really utilize. And when I look at that receiver room, it really is just Chris Olave. It's like I know Rashid Shaheed, but he ended up getting hurt, and I even think too he could be kind of like boom or bust when it comes to when it comes to yardage wise. So when I think of Kellen Moore and that offensive mind, I think a guy like Luther Burden would be very interesting in this offensive system. once again, maybe it's a little bit high, yes, but at the same time, though, this is just that kind of draft class as well. And so I think getting a weapon in there, because we also don't know who the quarterback situation is going to be. If it is, I'm in the camp as of right now. They're going to move on from Derek Carr, try and clear up some cap space as you have a new head coach coming in, and just roll with Spencer Rattler. I think that'd be interesting, but at the same time, though, too, I think it's very low expectations for the Saints this year. So,
There have
uh,
been reports that have come out that say that they are going to keep Derek Carr. I think that's going to be tricky with the cap situation, but we'll see. I would move on from him as well.
yeah,
So
so we'll have to wait and see. But here with Chicago, I'm mixing up a little bit. To me, in this spot, Ashton Genty makes so much sense. I'm not going to end up doing that just because I've done that, I think, my past 3 or 4 mock drafts. And so here, ended up going edge rusher, ended up going with James Pierce Jr. I could see them going Mike Green. I could maybe even see them going with like Kenneth Grant or any of the other edge rushers that they like, Shamar Stewart. If they want that bigger, like just, but honestly, well, no, Shamar Stewart actually wasn't as big as 290 as what they normally say
he came in at
on
like
PFF.
270 something.
So that's not nearly as big as like PFF has him. So he's probably lost a couple of lbs, and so, but still, that's not definitely on the bigger side for edge rusher, especially modern day now. So I had to go with James Pierce Jr. I think it might fit a little bit more of their current scheme that they have right now, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. And so moving on now with San Francisco. Ended up going with Kelvin Banks here, just with his combine and his measurements. I think that teams are going to want to potentially take him and maybe a little bit of development, but I think the Niners are in a solid spot right now. Still with Trent Williams there, develop Kelvin Banks because there is just going to be a time. I mean, Trent Williams is 37, so like it's going to be eventually where he's not going to be able to be the best tackle or one of the best tackles in the league. So preparing for life after Trent Williams is crucial for the Niners here. And who knows, maybe he can come in if Mike McGlinchey gets hurt, he can kick over to right tackle and provide some quality minutes there. So here with the Dallas Cowboys, very similar, I think, to the Saints. Not really a wrong pick that you could make here. All the guys I'm seeing on the board right now with Genty, Barron, Starks, Campbell, Green, or Johnson, all those guys, I think, would provide valuable minutes. I think Grant also could be another guy as well, even though Mozzie Smith, another defensive tackle for Michigan, isn't entirely working out. So I ended up going with Jahdae Barron here, a guy that could provide a lot of versatility overall in the secondary as well. But as I said, could go many different directions. So here now with Carolina, they trade back and they're still able to get Mike Green out of Marshall. They maybe could take him at 8, but I think with the value of what Miami was offering, I think is warranted out of the trade back spot, knowing that there's still a lot of other defensive line guys available. I think he'd fit well into the system that they have going on there and would be very interesting going up against these NFC South offenses. So here with Indianapolis, just kind of where Will Johnson is falling now. This seems like just a perfect spot for him. Maybe you go Malachi Starks, maybe you go Jahad Campbell because they could get some other linebackers in there as well. But I'm going to go with Will Johnson. You can maybe make an argument for Kenneth Grant as well, beefing up the interior, really adding on some meat there. But we'll kind of have to wait and see. So here with my Atlanta Falcons, uh, so many different routes that they could go. There are a couple of bad picks. Like I mean, as much as I love Ashton Genty, I would be furious if they drafted running back here, but I wouldn't put it past Terry Fontenot to do that. So maybe they go Kenneth Grant once again, beef up that defensive line as they're going more for a 3-4 set. We'll have to see what happens with Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata and a couple of the other guys as well to clear up some cap space. So I did end up going with Jalen Walker, however, just a guy you can kind of move around that entire defensive line. I scroll up just a little bit. I think you just passed him. So,
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
right. Yeah, right there. So maybe a little early, but I think he'd kind of fit into what they're looking for. Maybe even if you re-sign Matt Judon and he can kind of learn behind him this year. But this could be a guy you can move all around the box. So, last pick here before we get to that halftime and Ryan's halftime report. But the more and more I think about it, I just think Kenneth Grant is just too good of a player to not work perfectly within this Cardinals defensive system. I think you put him in there, really help out this defense as a whole. A lot more pressure on the interior, maybe allow some guys like Zaven Collins to get after the quarterback a little bit more. You can go add some edge rushers, I think, in the second and third round. But I think that's going to be the Cardinals' primary focus is really, really improving that defensive line.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like that pick. I think we've both made that pick so many times. I think him, Tyreek Williams is another guy that I think we've both drafted at that spot as well. So that defensive interior, I think, is going to be something that the Cardinals definitely address pretty high up in this draft. I like Jalen Walker to Atlanta, keep him here in Georgia, and I think too what he brings is he can play at that second level and be like a middle linebacker, and then also too on third downs can kind of come down and be that outside linebacker in some smaller like true passing down sets. So I like that fit as well. Will Johnson falling there. I laugh. So he's the 14th ranked player. His average draft position is 14, and he gets taken here at 14 to the Colts. So I think that's a really good fit. I mean, a lot of these other picks I think make a lot of sense. I do really like Kelvin Banks Jr. I do think if you look at this tackle class, it's started to get really close here. I think at the top, especially too with Will Campbell. I think primarily being an interior offensive lineman. Josh Simmons, Armand Membu, Kelvin Banks, Josh Connerly, I think are all in that like first round category of offensive tackles. And they're all probably really close together on a lot of people's boards. And
Yeah.
so Kelvin Banks goes there. I think any one of those guys could really be interchanged with that pick as well. So no, I really like this pick. The Dolphins trading up makes a lot of sense. Luther Burden makes a lot of sense. So it's a good draft.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So let's get back to this amazing draft. Best one Ryan has ever seen so far. So Cincinnati, defensive line, interior, I think is our obvious needs, but I think a sneaky one is going to be secondary. And you guys like Geno Stone, Von Bell, like what are they going to do with those guys? I even think too, I need to confirm, but I'm pretty sure some of those guys are actually even hitting free
Yeah.
agency as well. Let me double check here real quick. So
I know Von Bell is a free agent.
Geno Stone's
Um,
not, but they can improve on that. Mike Hilton is a free agent as well. But I still think though that you can improve getting Malachi Starks in that secondary. Just moving him like you can put him anywhere. I think really honestly except outside corner. But I probably best would be at free safety or but you could put him in a strong safety, move him around. And I think that improve that secondary a lot. They could go defensive line also would completely understand them going that route. So here with Seattle, I thought I'd have some fun and mix it up just a little bit. But a guy I think that impressed at the combine was who ran a 4.29 40 and was Matthew Golden. It's almost certain that they're going to cut Tyler Lockett just because of the cap savings. And so I think to replace him here very cheaply, get Matthew Golden. And I think he would fit well into kind of the differences. I think he's different enough from DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba to be kind of that other third receiver that Geno Smith might be able to lean on. So, curious on Seahawks fans' thoughts on that selection. But here with Tampa Bay, uh, different routes they can go on the defensive side of the ball. I ended up going with Donovan Ezraku. He's going to fit their scheme a little bit more as that outside linebacker, solid run defender too, with his size as well. So I think you put him across from Yaya Diaby. And I think I think you can see a lot of sacks and in improvement when it comes to some of the run containment. So here with Denver, I didn't even realize it kind of up to this point, but like I liked all the other picks. But if Ashton Genty falls to Denver at 20, like they're taking Ashton Genty. Like there's no
oh
ifs,
yeah.
ands, or buts about it. It's like maybe they could go some other routes. Maybe they even trade up a couple of spots to get him, but they're going to need help. Bo Nix is going to want some. Not that the running back room is bad, but I think just Ashton Genty being there is a good spot. If they end up going a different route, I will say Pittsburgh is 100% jumping on the Ashton Genty train. Um, and so potentially could see a trade up as well from Pittsburgh to go and get that guy because Najee Harris is going to be leaving in free agency. But unfortunately for Pittsburgh, they could maybe even go Amari Hampton here, but I actually have them going defensive interior. I have them going Derek Harmon. Some of my reason for that is one, you just go look at Harmon's numbers. A lot of hurries, a lot of pressure from this year, especially first time Oregon's been in the Big Ten. So really kind of a Pac-12 school playing their first Big Ten schedule. So I was impressed by that. And you go look, Cam Hayward is 37, 35 or something like
Yeah.
that. So he's getting
He's
up
mid to
there.
late 30s, which is old in
Larry,
the NFL. That's
yeah,
very old.
Larry Ogunjobi as well. He is in his 30s also. I think the younger 30s, but still. So start to think about getting that defensive interior depth going from there. So I think that could be a potential route that they end up going if there's an offensive player that they don't like. I still really like them going offensive. Uh, 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 I like them going offensive skill position player here, whether that's running back or receiver or tight end. But in this instance, though, well, I'm just trying to mix it up instead of just picking a Mecca Egbuka every single time. So similar as well for the Los Angeles Chargers here. Instead of just going receiver here, they are going to be, well, more than likely going to be losing both Khalil Mack and also Joey Bosa as well. So I have them going edge rusher here. I have them going Michael Williams. And so I think it would be very interesting because those edge rushers that were there, Jamar Stewart, Nick Scorton, even to Landon Jackson as well, are those bigger edge rushers that would fit that 4-3 style of defense. And I think that would be, I think any one of those guys, I think would fit that flavor. So curious to hear on Chargers' thoughts on that selection. Here with Green Bay, once again, trying to mix it up. It makes so much sense to me for them to go secondary. That's such a big need, especially to if they are wanting to trade Jair Alexander. So switching up here to edge rusher, and I had them going Shamar Stewart as well. I think maybe his physical traits would be what puts him over the edge over Nick Scorton, over some of the other guys that are there. Once again, too, if I'm saying physical traits, maybe Landon Jackson, because Landon Jackson also too is just such a huge guy as well.
Yeah.
What could Green Bay do if they could develop him, and what could he turn into just with his overall size? Like you could move him around potentially the entire defensive line, and you could do that as well with Shamar Stewart. So that would be very interesting overall. Here with Minnesota, in real life, a very possible trade back spot. But I actually ended up going with the interior offensive line here. That's an area that they're really going to want to improve on, especially too if JJ McCarthy is going to be taking the helm next year. So I have them going Gray Zabel and beefing up that interior. This guy's shot up the draft boards, especially to coming from his senior day week as well. And so I think he's going to be, I think he solidified himself as a late first round pick. We'll have to kind of wait and see. Maybe no later than top 40. But so Ryan, what do you think of that previous 8?
Yeah, I do think that this is going to be the point where we start seeing a lot of edge rushers and offensive linemen and defensive linemen come off the board. And so I think you started it off with Malachi Starks, Matthew Golden. I like that pick. I think too, Matthew Golden, you have so much there where Matthew Golden's going to get so many favorable matchups. And I think when you look at Seattle and what they're trying to do, I think they're trying to maximize the next 2 seasons. And in a deep offensive line and defensive line class, and I say deep interior offensive line class, I think going and getting a top tier playmaker like Matthew Golden makes a lot of sense. But yeah, and then you start to see you had 4 defensive linemen and 5 picks, and then Ashton Genty kind of falls there, and then another guy to address the interior there for the Vikings. No, I like it. I think this is real, like what we could actually see a run like this. And like there's still other guys, like you have Walter Nolan, Josh Simmons, Armand Membu, Nick Scorton, Darius Alexander, Josh Connerly, TJ Sanders, Tyleek Williams, like Landon Jackson, who's a name you already mentioned. There are still so many talented defensive linemen and offensive linemen left on the board that I'm excited to see kind of how you wrap this up here.
Yep. I think you're going to like it. So moving on now to Houston, very similar as I've gone into your so much. But I think also too, if you go look at that roster on the offensive side of the ball, they're probably not going to be able to re-sign Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell is more than likely not going to play in 2025 thanks to the severity of his injury. And if he is, he's going to be extremely limited and not going to be the guy that you're looking for here. So you do need to protect CJ Stroud, and you are going to be able to get other offensive linemen in round 2 and round 3. But here, I actually really like Emeka Egbuka in this system. One, CJ Stroud has played with him in the past. And 2, also, I think he'd be a good complement to what Nico Collins provides to the team. So I think that Emeka Egbuka, Nico Collins, 1-2 receiver combo would be very interesting as well to bring into Houston. So here in Los Angeles, they do need some linebacker help as well. They definitely need secondary help, and so I could see them going that route. I think maybe Trey Amos or maybe even Maxwell Harrison or Siobhan Ravel could be some guys that really like that system. But I do think the value of Jahad Campbell coming in here. They need to get a little bit younger at the linebacking position. So you put him in there especially then too as well with how good that defensive line is. Could take a lot of pressure off of the back seven, I should say, if they just rush four. Demetrius Knight is another potential guy that they could end up taking there if they want to go linebacker. So here with Baltimore, I really struggled for a second on which route Baltimore could go, depending on based off the guys that are still available. So then I thought about what if we do a trade back spot. And Ryan, I think your New England Patriots potentially would, now that they have in this scenario an extra third round pick, an extra third round pick. If you guys trade up from 38 and then include the 77th pick as well for the 27th pick, that math kind of checks out. And I think you guys can go and get Josh Simmons. I think that's worth the trade. We'll have to monitor his health overall, but really like him at that left tackle position there in New England with his overall versatility. I think it's worth it. If you There's no guarantee that Ariante Ursary is going to make it to you guys at 38, so maybe you guys trade up and take him there instead. But I really like Josh Simmons overall. If you watch his film before he got injured, we'd be talking about him as a top 5 pick. You guys would take him at 4 if
Yeah.
Josh Simmons didn't end up getting hurt, for being completely honest. So I think that's an
Yeah.
amazing value and worth the extra pick. So here at 28, Detroit Lions, we'll have to see if they end up keeping Zadarius Smith. But if they don't, I think there's going to be an opportunity for an edge rusher position draft pick here. And so this is where I have Nick Scorton coming off the board as well. Once again, very similar. I think they could maybe go Landon Jackson, maybe they go Princely Uman Mielen, or some other guys that might fit their need. But here I have them going with Nick Scorton. I think that'd be a very fun combo with him and Aiden Hutchinson. So here with Washington. So Washington has already traded for Deebo Samuel. And I'm kind of sitting here thinking as well, they do have Brian Robinson Jr. in their backfield. They have Austin Eckler as well. And then they even have, who is that? Just the other guy, the bowling ball guy.
Mm,
Uh,
I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Jeremy McNichols, who is a free agent. So that being said, though, too, it's like Brian Robinson Jr., he's coming into the final year of his contract. What type of potential extension, if they want to extend him, would there be? Austin Eckler, he is not also like he's on the back end of his career, and so I would really like this backfield. If you have Jaden Daniels back there, then Amari and Hampton, I think would be a very interesting combo. There are some other routes they could go, and I understand that Armand Membu maybe. I think he might kick in more to guard in the NFL. And with Sam Cosmi tearing his ACL, like maybe you could have him start there and you can move him around. So that could be another potential opportunity. Or maybe even 2 going edge rusher here, but so many edge rushers have come off the board in this scenario already. I think you can get some later on. But here I have them going Omari and Hampton, and I think really beefing up. That'd be an extremely fun backfield to watch with
Oh yeah.
Daniels and Omari and Hampton. So last couple of picks here. So Buffalo Bills, they need to address the secondary. Kyrie Elam made it really tough to watch in that AFC Championship game. And so I have them going with Trey Amos here. Really like his film. Really like how aggressive he is overall. I think he'd fit well in that Sean McDermott system. They could honestly do anything on the defensive side of the ball. That or receiver. I do agree with that. Even though they did just re-sign Khalil Shakir to a nice long-term deal. So Kansas City Chiefs. This is where I think Ariante Ursary is going to come off the board. You just go look at what they just need somebody at left tackle spot. And so, I mean, they have Kingsley Suamatia. They have Wanya Morris as well. Maybe they bring back DJ Humphreys. And even if they do all that, I still think they might go left tackle. And Ariante Ursary is a guy I think they could potentially plug in there and be that number 1 guy. I also it would be very interesting as well if the Chiefs get super aggressive, knowing that this is a big weakness for theirs, and they just kind of go all out and then go try and get a Will Campbell and try and put him at left tackle there and see if they can develop. I think he'd fit really well into that Chiefs culture. And that would be multiple picks in this draft, first rounder next year. Who would be the team that would want to fall back all the way that far? Because you're looking at a potential top 10 team to go back that far. But if the Chiefs make the right offer, it might be worth it. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. Lastly, here, Eagles. So they just announced they're releasing Darius Slay, which isn't too surprising. Maybe they go corner here, but they invested so much in corner last year that I think that they would wait on that. But that being said, Josh Sweat is probably going to be lost to free agency. Brandon Graham, he's probably going to retire. I really hope he doesn't come back. I mean, there's not a better story than to finish out on top. So, uh, I think one of these guys that would best fit their system. I went with Princely. I feel like he's the guy that would most fit kind of what they're looking for when they're outside linebacker. Landon Jackson is huge, and it would be funny seeing him trying to be an outside linebacker just with how big he is. But I think Princely, of the guys that are remaining, that's the route they could go. I think other guys that would fit their need would be Donovan Ezraku. I think if Mike Green somehow fell and they want to do something similar to what I just mentioned with the Chiefs, where they trade up their futures, I think that would be interesting also. So, but that's my draft. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've kind of already gone through the first 24, so I'll just do the last 8 here. But Emeka Egbuka, that does make sense. I mean, they have a lot of holes on that roster that they need to fill.
Yeah.
It was pretty evident, I think, as the season went on, that they just had a little bit of a lack of talent on that offensive line. But with the loss of Stephon Diggs, the loss of Tank Dell, that they just really became stagnant. And in that Chiefs game, it was very apparent that they just didn't have the firepower anymore. So I like that pick. Jahad Campbell makes sense. Address the second level of that defense. They can address corner maybe a little bit later with like a Maxwell Harrison in the second round. I like the Patriots trading up. Josh Simmons, he is a bit of a risk, but there's a very high reward
Yeah.
for that pick if it hits. Nick Scorton across from Aiden Hutchinson makes a lot of sense. Marion Hampton, Jaden Daniels in the same backfield is a little scary, especially because Marion Hampton was like 6 foot 220 and ran a 4.4. So that's, that would be pretty terrifying for opposing defenses. Trey Amos, yeah, the Bills definitely need secondary help. Ariante Ursary makes a lot of sense there for the left tackle of Kansas City. And then Princely Uman Mielen, I like a lot. I do have to say one thing. So last week in my mock draft, I had the Eagles take Braden Swinson there, and there was a guy that commented saying Braden Swinson, you drafted the 185th ranked player.
I think he's
What are
like
you
50th
doing?
now.
Yeah, he's ranked 50th now. So who's laughing now, bud? Yeah. Uh, I think if I made that pick this week, he would not have made any comments. So just funny how like the
It was,
fluctuation of PFF boards like sways people's opinions on players.
yeah, it's probably our uncle. That's probably who it is.
Yeah, honestly. So, no, but all in all, I really like this draft. I mean, there is like the same like 10, 12 names, I think, at the top. And then like you kind of get down into picks like 15 through 32. And it's just like you recycle or like there's just no drop off between any of these players between like 15 and 50. And
Well,
so,
and the same thing though too, but it's like just as an example, like I mean they probably wouldn't do this, but it's like Carolina traded back, but I'm looking at like Shamar Stewart or Michael Williams or then who or Nick Scorton. If they really like those guys, I could see them going at
mhm,
8. Like I'm not saying I would agree with
yeah,
that pick, but if they're trying to address a need at the edge rusher position, that's where I see. And so, and also too, where is Tyler Warren really going to go 7? No, but it's like Brock Bowers fell all the way to 13. Now that was a much more dominant class,
yeah.
so it makes sense. But where's Tyler Warren going to go? It's this draft is just very interesting overall because there's not that many studs. Even two guys like Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders are like it kind of the narrative kind of makes sense. Well, maybe not as much with Travis Hunter, but with Shador, it'd be like, where is he really going to go?
Yeah.
Um, because there are some question
I,
marks. So
I did
it,
see. Sorry, I know we're trying to wrap up, but I did see
uh,
a mock draft. I think was it Lance Zerline? He had like Shador Sanders going at like 29. Like, and I was like, that is a crazy fall. But I mean, like, if you rank these guys on like a football player level, like who is a better football player, like I don't think I would have Cam Ward or Shador Sanders in my top 10.
no, I don't think so either. But it's just that it goes to show the value of that position. In all seriousness, if we're having that conversation, now let's say no trades are included, I find it hard to believe that teams like Seattle or Pittsburgh would let Shador Sanders go past them. I think that value would be
Yeah.
too much at that point.
Hmm.
Do both those teams have other needs? Absolutely, but Seattle needs to start thinking about life after Geno because I'm sure they probably don't want to re-sign him again, being at 35. And Geno makes you competitive, yes, but he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Pittsburgh, they don't really have a quarterback as of right now, and so we all know Russell Wilson. Well, Russell Wilson has won Super Bowls. One Super Bowl, should have been two, but I won't talk about that. But Justin Fields definitely won't win you a Super Bowl. So it's like I think the Steelers would run it back again with a quarterback similar to Kenny Pickett, and the worst thing you could do is trade him. Then you're in the same spot that
Yeah.
you're in now. So Shedeur Sanders, if we're talking worst case scenario, wouldn't go past those guys.
Yeah.
But even too, I'd find it hard to believe that even Las Vegas would pass on him. So
Yeah.
but that being said, though, too, I guess is Shedeur Sanders better than Aiden O'Connell now? Like Aiden O'Connell now versus Shedeur Sanders now. I think it's an interesting debate.
Yeah, and I will say, not to toot my own horn, but I have been a proponent of there's a possibility that Shedeur Sanders falls. I feel like there's a bigger gap between Cam Ward and Shedeur than people are willing to admit in the public. So, I don't know. Interesting food for thought. Let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you thought of Tyler's 8th mock draft of the 2025 NFL offseason. Let us know what you thought of your team's pick. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? Other than that, we'll see you guys next time.